Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and this week's knowledge pool is going to be awesome. But before that, we're introducing a new twist to the knowledge pool segment. Every week I get a ton of messages about what format you guys want us to deck tech next. I figured I might as well let you guys decide. So here's how it's going to work. The categories are Modern, Budget Standard, Budget Standard, and Legacy. You can cast your votes for next week's deck tech by either commenting on this week's knowledge pool, commenting on our Facebook page, or tweeting us at the Mana Source. You can only vote once per social media platform. In other words, you can vote for Modern here on Facebook and on Twitter if you want to, and that's 3 votes right there. If you start spamming, your votes will be disregarded entirely, so don't spam. One last rule, no type of deck tech will be done 2 weeks in a row. If next week is standard budget, the week after that cannot be the same, even if it gets the most votes. At that point, the second highest will win. This is going to be fun. Since Modern's all the rage right now, we decided that we would do a Modern deck tech this week. With that in mind, is there really any other deck besides Blue Moon you'd want to see? Me neither. Here we go. As usual, we start with the mana base. The deck runs a playset each of Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarn. The only other non-basic lands in the deck are 3 Steam Vents. The rest is made up of 10 islands and 1 mountain. For the record, 10 islands is a ton in a Modern deck that runs blue. But of course, this is all part of the bigger plan. There are only 4 win conditions in the entire deck, 2 Master of Waves and 2 Batterskull. While the 3 Snapcaster Mages can technically win, that's an obvious backup plan. Master and Batterskull both represent late game threats. The huge artifact hate machine creates an 8-point life swing every turn, and if you have enough mana, it's nearly impossible to get rid of. Master of Waves can apply a little pressure early, or be saved up for when your opponent has absolutely nothing to do. As you can imagine, games against this deck take a long time to finish. The all-star of this deck, as I'm sure a lot of you already know, is Blood Moon. A playset of this destroys most Modern decks. Birthing Pod, most variations of Splinter Twin, Zoo, and a ton of other strategies all down the drain thanks to this. Want to know why you run 10 islands? Yeah, this is why. Blood Moon by itself punishes your opponent in such a fashion that it, almost literally, ends the game the second it comes out. This may sound like an exaggeration, but honestly, it kills most decks. There are some strategies that can stand against it, but come on, everything is a mountain? Seriously? Gross. The other half of the deck is a control shell. We'll start with 2 Vedalken Shackles. The reason this card's in the deck is to stop the Splinter Twin combo. In response to them playing the Twin on their Deceiver Exarch or Kiki Jiki, you just tap the Shackles and gain control. Without some serious interruption on their side, Shackles locks the game up pretty well. Huge Splinter Twin hoser. 2 Spreading Seas are there to just dig the knife in a little deeper after you cast Blood Moon. Let's say the pod player has a couple non-basics in play. You play Blood Moon, part of their soul dies, the usual. Anyways, they top deck a forest. They play their forest and just think to themselves, all I need is a Noble Hierarch and by gosh I can do this. Your upkeep comes along, you untap, you draw, boom! Spreading Seas on their only basic land. You sit mesmerized as you watch your opponent's life leave their eyes. Sorry, it's just so beautiful. The only other permanent in the deck is a pair of Threads of Disloyalty. Game after game after game, this card destroyed all strategies. I saw it take control of Noble Hierarch, Voice of Resurgence, Deceiver Exarch, among a ton of other creatures. This card is just so versatile in a meta defined by 1, 2, and 3 drop creatures. Next up, we have a ton of counter magic. We start with 2 Cryptic Command. Yes, it's expensive, but countering and drawing a card is great, especially in a deck that goes super late and the mana doesn't end up being that bad. Plus, the versatility of being able to bounce a creature is pretty sweet. Another 2 of counter in the deck, Mana Leak, provides great protection against early threats. Zoo, Birthing Pod, and Storm all love to play spells early. Mana Leak makes them pay for it. Or not, depending on how you look at it. The next counter we have is Remand. Arguably the best counter in the deck, 3 Remand are designed to stall the opponent until Blood Moon can get out and they can't cast whatever it is you just returned to their hand. It's great value since most likely they won't be able to play anything again, plus you get to draw a card. Pure value. The rest of the main deck is made up of 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Serum Visions, 4 Spell Snare, and 2 Vapor Snag. Lightning Bolt is meant for Noble Hierarch. It just is. Serum Visions lets you get to your 4 win conditions and Blood Moons faster. Spell Snare counters Tarmogoyf, enough reason for me to play it. And 2 Vapor Snag function in a similar way to Remand. It's a great way to bounce a mana dork before you drop the moon. I bunched all these cards up just cause they have pretty obvious uses. The sideboard is filled with cards that have very specific uses. 3 Anger of the Gods comes in against Zoo and Pod. It's extremely well positioned right now because it exiles all Persist creatures and Voice of Resurgence. Huge value there. Next up we have 1-ofs Combust, Counterflux, and Negate. The Counterflux and Negate both come in against basically anything that plays blue. Negate is especially effective against Storm. Combust is here primarily to kill Deceiver Exarch and Pestermite in the Splinter Twin deck. The 1-of Flame Slash is also good against Deceiver Exarch, but really shines against things like Restoration Angel and Linvala Keeper of Silence, among other things. The last red card in the sideboard is a pair of Vandal Blasts that come in against Affinity. Done. 2 more Spreading Seas make sure the non-red, non-blue decks hate you as much as humanly possible. 3 Vendilion Click are excellent against combo decks, as bottoming a Splinter Twin is pretty good in any situation. The last card in the sideboard is 1 Teferi Mage of Zhalfir. The card just destroys any deck with blue mana in it. It's as simple as that. No one had this card on their radar, so it just came in and destroyed everyone. It was a bloodbath. Bloodbath. We're finally done with the deck. Let's talk strategy. Blood Moon is a control deck through and through. You have very few win conditions and a ton of things that make your opponent want to punch you in the face. Your games go long, really long. Try not to play too slow, as going to time will be an issue for you. It's hard for you to lose, but sometimes it can be even harder to win. Keep that in mind. Also remember to use your Remands and Vapor Snags most effectively. They're in the deck in order to bounce things to your opponent's hands before you bring out Blood Moon. Don't use them unless you have to. This also goes for Lightning Bolt. You use the bolt on a mana dork turn 1 every time. No exceptions. As far as your Batterskulls and Master of Waves go, don't just run them out there. You want mana up always for counter magic. Don't be in a rush to win. If you want to win fast, play Storm. This deck is meant to get to 8 or 10 mana before you do anything meaningful. With Batterskull, the magic number is 8. You want to be able to play it and return it to your hand in the same turn if you have to. Weaknesses. Any deck that doesn't care about Blood Moon. Not even kidding. Your deck is designed to beat 3-color strategies with greedy mana bases. Without Blood Moon and Spreading Seas being fully effective, you really have nothing going for you. This is why Affinity is probably one of your worst matchups. Go ahead, Blood Moon them. That'll go well. They don't care. Keep this in mind when fighting particularly aggressive strategies like Burn, or just any deck that mainly runs blue-red. I'm gonna rattle these off really quickly. Anger comes in against Zoo and Pod, Combust comes in against Splinter Twin, Counterflux comes in against all blue decks ever, Flame Slash comes in against Pod and possibly Twin, Negate comes in against blue, Spreading Seas comes in if you want your opponent to cry, in other words, triple colored decks, Teferi comes in against blue, Vandablast comes in against Affinity, Vendilion Click comes in against all combo decks ever. I did it. Blue Moon is a hysterical deck that punishes your opponents for spending hundreds of dollars on their mana bases. It's a beautiful thing. This deck could make some serious noise in the upcoming Modern season if the meta doesn't shift quickly. Are any of you going to consider picking this strategy up? It looks insanely fun to play. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.